Togozani Royals, how is everyone doing? I hope everyone is well. Hotep, and welcome back. We are doing part 5 today. We're doing part 5 of our Gregorian Calendar series and Misalignment, where we look at where the names of the Gregorian calendar months come from, and then we also look at what festivals were celebrated during those months. This is something that Spirit put in my heart to do because a lot of people are very ignorant of what is really going on. So it came to me that I really need to do this series as a way of showing people why it is important for us to align with something that is our own as melanated beings. So let's look at the month of October. October comes from the Latin word octo, which means 8. Octo means 8, and therefore in ancient Rome, the month of October was actually the 8th month. Remember, the Roman calendar started in March, and so October was actually the 8th month. And then, of course, when they did their little shenanigans, October then became the 10th month, although it's called October. Anyway, so what are the festivals that are celebrated during this month? First, there is a celebration called the Equus October, which is a race. It was a equine. You guys, equine means horse. Equestrian is all about horses. So it was a major horse race that celebrated the god of war, who is Mars. You remember Mars from March, right? So remember that in March, Mars was celebrated because this was when the armies were getting ready to go out and do battle. Well, he celebrated again in October because the wartime or the military campaigns are closing down. It is also the time of year where agriculture is shutting down because now it's the harvest coming in because people are now looking to winter. So winter is on its way. So that was one of the major festivals. In October the 1st was a festival. This is going to make you guys laugh because you'll understand the origins of many things through this series. So it was so October 1st was the festival of the goddess Ceres, Seres. Those of you in South Africa know that there is a juice called Ceres juice that you get from the stores. Now you know what that name means. It is a Roman goddess, and she was a goddess of the harvest. She was the goddess of agriculture. She was also patron of farmers. And at this time, she was celebrated because why? Because this is the time that the wheat and the cereals in the field were being harvested. So your English word cereal comes from the name of goddess Ceres, which is also the name of a juice brand in South Africa called Ceres. So I just thought I'd put that in there as an aside. So November, let's look at November. Novem means 9 in Latin. Novem means 9. So it was the 9th month in the old Roman calendar, which started March, in which March was the first month, right? Spring. So it was the 9th month, but then of course now it's the 11th month because there's been all that alteration and addition and subtraction and shifting around, right? What festivals were celebrated during the month of November? There's what is called the Ludi Plebii, which was a 7-day festival from November 4th to the 17th. And there were lots of theatrical performances, athletic competitions, and of course the usual. Lots of wine and partying and good old hedonism, right? Now, November 13th was the banquet for Jupiter. right? The banquet for Jupiter. Jupiter was known then, or is known as the chief god or king of the sky. And he was the patron of the Roman Empire. And the story goes that Jupiter was actually the son of Saturn. Saturn, who was married to Juno. And they had several children, including Mars, god of war, Bellona, goddess of war, and Vulcan, the god of fire. I laugh because I'm always mightily impressed by these deities. They were very warlike. So Jupiter was supposed to have defeated his dad, right? And apparently the mythology goes that he was fighting his dad in order to protect his siblings. I don't know what the dad wanted to do to his siblings. His siblings who are, of course, who? Mars, Bellona, and Vulcan. Okay, so that's that story. Now, again, like I've told you, the other name for Jupiter was Jove, Jove. If those of you who know British English very well, you've heard of the saying, by Jove. If you used to watch Mr. Bean or you used to watch, which was the other, there are lots of British comedies where somebody would go, by Jove, what have you done? Well, now you know where that Jove, G-O-V-E, comes from. That is another name for the deity Jupiter, right? Who is god of the sky, right? So I wanted to give all this so that there could be an understanding of what is going on. I think we have talked about December, but I'm just going to do a quick recap, and then I want to talk about some other aspect of this calendar. So December, right? Decem equals 10 in Latin. So this was the 10th month. This was the 10th month in this calendar. The old Roman calendar, and then it became the 12th month in the Gregorian calendar after they'd done some shifting about. So as we've talked about festivals, Saturnalia was a festival. This was a festival to the god Saturn, and there was a huge temple in Rome for Saturn, who was considered the supreme god. Remember, this is Jupiter's father. He was the supreme god, and of course, at this temple, there was lots of feasting. Piglets were sacrificed at this place. Basically, piglets were kind of, burnt alive, and some of them were slaughtered. And that is what was used as sacrifice. And of course, other Smolinyana creatures who are two-legged were also sacrificed. So December was a month that was very busy with festivals, and it marked the very end of the agricultural period and the beginning of winter, right? So if you note, there is so much misalignment with a lot of these things that are on the Gregorian calendar. The naming of them to begin with, right? Where the 10th, how does the 12th month get the name that equates the 10th month, right? So it's very scary that they did things like that. Novem, which is November, I forgot to say, is 9. So you've got Novem, which is 9. Then you've got Decem, which is 10. But November is the 11th month. And you've got December as the 12th month. That already is a whole bunch of misalignment. Now, when it comes to December, and I think I said this in the very first one, which led to the rest of this series, which is that in the Southern Hemisphere and for melanated beings, we're not shutting down and celebrating anything in December. For us, it is our 4th season and we are deep in work. This is confirmed by nature in the southern hemisphere, because right now in the southern hemisphere, people are in the fields plowing. People are in the fields planting. It is hot, hot, hot. Fruits are being born. This is when people are eating what you guys in this part of the world call your tropical fruit, because a lot of it gets imported from places in the southern hemisphere. Your mango, your papaya, your pineapple this time of year. A lot of fruit that we eat when it's non-seasonal, and we shouldn't be. We should eat according to season. But we are so messed up, we eat any and everything. I mean, you can get mango here. You can get pineapple this time of year. You can get papaya. Those are fruits that are eaten deep in the summer in the south. So people are eating for the season there right now. We are not, because we import this stuff, which also messes our system up. And as we go deeper, I'll start to explain why that is so and why you should be eating seasonal foods. So in this part of the world, for example, we should be eating pumpkin, we should be eating potatoes, we should be eating hearty foods that nourish us for the winter, right? Things that people in the southern hemisphere won't be necessarily eating because, man, it's too hot to eat heavy that side. Do you see what I mean? So it becomes very important to understand what alignment means when we talk about alignment with nature. It's not necessarily something that is just going on this esoteric spiritual level, but it goes down to how you actually live out your day. How are you being aligned? How are you aligned with nature? And what energies are you actually aligning with? So I hope this series has really been useful for many people. By the way, Saturnalia, according to the text that I was looking at, is a precursor to Christmas, because a lot of the gifts, candles, feasting, wreaths, those rituals and those little traditions come from the Feast of Saturnalia. So you can figure out the rest for yourselves, because the Bible doesn't actually state the birth of the so-called Jesus. It doesn't. It was in the 4th century AD that Christian churches decided to celebrate. There was a unanimous decision to celebrate this birth of this lamb on the 25th. But that is nowhere documented that that's when he was born. So that's if he was born at all. Some of us don't believe that there was ever such a birth, especially because it was a virgin birth. Ha ha ha. Yeah, right. Next. Now, I want us to look at something, and I was thinking that I would separate out the lives, but I think that this was quite short, and I can really just talk a little bit about your understanding of the planets and their names. Many people don't understand that when they say planet Venus, or they say Jupiter, or they say Saturn, or they say Mars, or they say Uranus, or some people say Uranus, okay, because it sounds a little bit better, or whatever these planets, the 7 major planets that we know. People don't actually know that these planets are named after Roman deities, every single last one of them, except Uranus, which is named after a Greek deity. So all these planets, I'm actually in the process of learning through the science of the Dogon, the names of these planets in an alternative language, because I refuse to invoke these energies every time I talk about astrology or astronomy and the planets, and I keep invoking the name of these Roman deities. So I wanted you to understand the level of imprisonment that exists within this system, and how if you don't make a conscious effort to break out of it, you will find yourself time and time again paying homage unintentionally and unknowingly to deities and entities that have nothing to do with you. This, for me, has been the real reason why I think Spirit wanted me to do this series, so that we develop a deeper consciousness and we live in a more awakened state as to what it is we're partaking in when we say or call these names. Like I said, I'm sure a lot of you hadn't made that connection between the Roman goddesses and gods and our very planets, right? So, very important to live in consciousness, Bagwantu. This is not the time to play. This is also not the time to look at things from a superficial perspective. I've had people on YouTube come and say, man, none of this really matters. A calendar is a calendar anyway. And at the end of the day, what matters is what's in your heart. And simplistic statements like that really sadden me when they come from Bagwantu, because when are we going to become aware of the layers of colonization and enslavement? And when are we going to accept that this is how deep this goes? Because that's the only way we can start peeling off these layers through our consciousness, and then remove ourselves from this system by actively refusing, intentionally saying, I will not take part in X, Y, and Z. But you can't know what to say no to if you don't actually know what that is. You have to know what you're saying no to. Like I'm telling you now, you all know where the names of the planets as we know them in English come from. So for me, what was the next step? For me was like, I'm going backwards. That's why we go back. Sankofa. We go back to retrieve the knowledge, the language of the past, to bring it into the present so we can pave a way for the future. So listen, that's why I'm like, if you are a spiritual person, you will forever be a student. You are a perpetual student, because none of us know everything. But once you know, then you really need to take accountability for what it is you now know, and then ask yourself basic questions like, how do I get out of this? Because I don't want any part of it. So I'm going to be learning the names of the major planets in an alternative African language, so that is what I'm going to start calling them, so that I don't have to call them these Roman deities and entities, because every time we say these names, we are invoking them. And based on this series, you can see what sort of energies we would be invoking, right? We don't want any part of that. The only energies we should be invoking are the energies of our ancient ancestors and the Neteru, who are pure, who are nature itself. So I want to know the original names of the planets and the original names of the stars, so that I can call them at that pure level, instead of calling them by the names of deities I know nothing about and invoking an energy that I know nothing about. And I don't want to know. I don't. So, on that note, family, I hope the series has been really useful. For those of you who haven't watched part 1 to 4, they're uploaded on YouTube. It's African with a K Spirituality Gogon Kanyezi Speaks. Please do go and watch the whole series and see the progression of this information. And I really hope that it will assist you as you move throughout your own journey, because the journey to decolonization is hard. It's long. It requires deep digging. We cannot afford to be superficial any longer. We are in this age now where the truth must come out for our people, no matter who gets offended or who gets hurt. That is no longer our business. The truth has never been a respecter of persons, a double-edged sword that cuts. There will be those who are liberated by the truth, and there will be those who feel like the truth is choking them. So you get to choose which side of history you want to be on. You get to choose which side of truth you want to be on. We are in the age of Ma'at now. This is not a time for jokes. This is not a time for playing. On that note, I want to say, Togozani and Hotep, have yourselves a great evening, and see you on my next upload.